also notice that they have color to them. The color is dark here and dark on the squid as well. When we turn it over, you're going to see a different color on the squid. The color's made the same way. It's called chromatopores. The way I remember that word is chromo means color, pores refer to the color itself. Now when you turn this over, which I'll do in a minute, you'll see that there's not the same color on both sides. So on a squid, they have a camouflage where they're darker on the top and lighter on the bottom. So if something looks up, they blend into the background. Or if they look down on them, they blend into the background. You also see that they have different shapes. This part is called the mantle. Now, the mantle on a squid, I'm going to come in here, ladies. The mantle on a squid is pointy, so that this animal moves in this direction. The mantle on the octopus is round. You have to move. You have to move. Is round, so it does not propel through the water. So one of the big differences between an octopus and a squid is how they swim. These crawl along the bottom primarily, not swimming, where these propel through the water, not on the bottom. So they live in different places. What have I left out? Oh, ink. Both the octopus and the squid put ink out into the water. They do this both as camouflage. If they're being attacked, they'll leave a cloud of ink. Hey, you guys, don't move out the animals just yet. I'm going to let you touch everything, but I want to play around with it first. They use the ink both to confuse predators, but also as a way of camouflage. Basically, by putting out a cloud of ink, the animal may be looking, the predator will look at that cloud while the animal is able to get away. Both animals have a siphon. Now, this is the siphon on the octopus. Watch where my finger comes out. See, it's right here? So the animal, when it moves, by contracting its mantle, it can squirt water out. And just like you feel the force of the water from a hose, that force pushes the animal forward. In the case of the squid, here's the mantle. Now, I have to also mention, here's the siphon. I also have to mention that this animal is in two pieces. And the reason it's in two pieces is because this part of it broke off. I got this animal as bycatch in the hake industry. The hake is a small fish that's caught by nets. The net scooped up this squid as well. This squid, its full size is about twice as large as this. So this is not a full-grown Morioteuthis. This is a half-grown one. This animal died of senescence. Basically, it crawled out of the water, which is not a way to live if you have gills. So functionally, this animal died from old age. So this is as big as this animal is going to get, where this animal would have grown larger had it not got caught by the net.
What species?
The question was, what species is it? It's a clubhook squid. Its scientific nomenclature is Morioteuthis robusta. And now Morioteuthis are actually found also down in New Zealand, and they get even bigger. The largest squid is an Archaeoteuthis, and it's the giant squid, which we seldom see. What's your question?
What do they eat?
What do they eat? That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. So these guys eat primarily fish. So the squid move through the water and they capture fish. These guys eat primarily things that crawl along on the bottom, like crabs and dig up clams and snails. So they eat two very different things. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to open up the mantle on both these animals so we can see the internal stuff. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I used to work for the crabbing. The time ended.
Let's see. I'm really concerned that you're going to get splashed. See all this stuff here? So I'm going to cut this open, but I want you all to step back just a little bit because you probably don't want to get splashed. Now this is calamari here. We're cutting up the mantle. Calamari. Now, when I open this up, this is when the splash happens, so be careful. Now, this is the back side of the squid, and I'm going to pull something out and lay it alongside of it. Now, you see this part right here? When I first looked at a squid, in fact, when I was one of your ages, I was fishing, and I was cutting open a squid, I thought this was plastic. I thought they actually stuck it into the squid. This is the only skeletal aspect of the squid. It's called the pen. Now, when you do a squid dissection, if you ever get a chance to do it, you save the pen, and then when you go to the ink gland, you can dip the pen into the ink gland, and you can actually write with it. So, but it's actually named pen, P-E-N. Now, I need to go over here, everybody. Back up. Now, this was the back side of it, so I'm going to flip this guy over because it's easier to see the guts on that. When I say the guts, I mean the different cycles. Hopefully, I won't get you guys wet.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Here it comes.
And now, I'm going to cut this guy open, and we're going to make a comparison.
Cut his head open.
Stand back,
So, these guys are called cephalopods, which means head foot. So when you said cut its head open, this is actually its body. Its eyes are down here, so that would be like, think about if your eyes were on your knees. So functionally, their eyes are below the rest of their body. So that's part of the reason they're called head foot. So I'm going to cut straight across this, and we're going to see what we see.
The brains.
Well, you're not going to be able to see much in the way of brain.
Guts, glory,
But
glory, guts.
now I'm going to move towards you guys because I want to put this into light.
A little more light.
Back up, guys.
So what I want to show you are the gills. So we're going to talk about the respiratory system. So they don't have lungs. They breathe by getting oxygen out of the water. Now I'm going to spin this guy around, and I'm going to stand where you're standing. It's funny, when you start doing one of these dissections, the first thing that happens is your nose starts to itch, and you go, I can't scratch it. And I know it's all psychological, but yeah. So this is one of the gills, and I want you to notice how much surface area it has. See, it looks like a feather, so it can exchange a lot of oxygen with the out of the water. Now, what you won't be able to see is its third heart. So the octopus has 3 hearts. They have a systemic heart for the body, and then it has brachial hearts for the gills. So the brachial heart's located right, pretty much where my fingers are, but you can't really see it because it's really small. And I need my scalpel. Can you grab me my dissection kit? Thank you. Can you open it? And I just need a scalpel out. Thanks. Now the muscle in the mantle is very, very strong. This is the gill, and I'm going to cut below that, cut the tissue. I might use my knife on that.
It's like a heart. It's dark red. Oh, the brain.
No, that's not the brain. The brain's actually between the eyes. So the brain's down here.
I want to see the brain.
I don't know if I can show you much of the brain. The brain's pretty small. Now, octopus are pretty smart.
Then how's it so smart?
Well, they don't have a lot to think about, I guess.
What's this? Like us humans do.
They're low maintenance.
Yeah. And I'm going to go right down to the beak. This is where the beak is. That black that you see right there. You guys can't see from around here. Okay. But I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut straight from the beak.
I don't want that into my face. Go back up. Because it's going to squirt everywhere. Be ready, Casper, to see the ink or the brain. Ew. The ink is squirting
Now this is the bullous.
Ooh, I want to see that big guy out.
This is the muscle that goes around the beak. And basically it's just the reverse of what you've got. So in other words, if I reach down your throat, you'd have the salivary glands on one side, then you'd have the esophagus, which is a tube that goes to the stomach, and then you have the intestines, and it would go straight down. In the case of the octopus, it goes the other way. It's going straight up. So it starts at the mouth here, and then the esophagus goes through here. And then this really muscular thing here is part of the stomach. These are the salivary glands right here. These two little like leaf-like structures. Now these salivary glands are a lot different from ours. These are the ones that have the toxin in them that actually paralyzes the prey and begins the digestion. So instead of amylase, they have a cephalotoxin in there. But I'm going to cut away through, trying to get all the way down. Here we go.
Ew, what is that? It looks like a heart or something.
You're not going to be able to actually see the heart. The digestive system is the best thing to actually see. And I'm working my way down. I don't know if you can tell. So we start with the beak here. We have the esophagus. We have the salivary glands right here. We're still going down. This is still part of the GI tract.
Does it actually have a stomach?
And then it has a, can't pronounce it real well, but a cloacal, which is, yes. And then this is these are the gills here. So these are the intestines that we're seeing down here.
Brain. I know that's why I said it looks like.
And this is the remnants of its last food. Wherever it had last, this piece is there. So let me remove. So we've got the beak here. We've got the buccal mass. I'm going to cut this out.
What is the beak made out of?
The beak is made of chitin. It's the same as your fingernails. I'm going to remove that and show you how this works. So it has this muscle that contracts, and then the beak comes in two pieces. There's one of them. So the beak is kind of like a parrot, and it works like this. There we go. Works like this. Now you can feel that would be putting my finger down in its mouth. So the beak works like this.
Is that very sharp?
It isn't. You want to feel it?
No.
Here, do your good deed for the day and pass this around. Hold on to it, and then let people touch it. Now,
You don't want to? You don't have to.
I'm going to go to the eyes.
How does it excrete?
A little louder.
How does it excrete? It's just in the last meal. I mean, you follow the digestive tract all the way down.
Right. So it has an anus that's located by the siphon. So it goes back. In other words, it goes back down just like our intestine does. Yeah. But that's a great question. Like echinoderms, sea urchins, and the like. Their fecal matter goes on top of them. So their mouth's on the bottom, and their anus is on top. So they kind of poop on themselves, but then they have pedicellariae to move things around. Now I'm going to turn this over. Are there any more questions about the internal? Go ahead. The question was how often do they feed? And they'll feed as much as they can. We feed them 3 times a week here. But the more you feed them, the faster they grow, and we don't want them to outgrow the tanks. So we don't feed them but 3 times a week. Probably not. Probably not. The question was, will they die sooner if they get bigger sooner? Maturation doesn't seem keyed to size because they'll mature when they're really small. So now the question is can I find the eyes?
Here, what type of food are you feeding?
Well, we feed them a variety of things, but mostly we feed them a gel that's made of all sorts of stuff, like a jello, if you will. We also feed them fish. We used to feed them live crab, but we don't anymore because we think that some diseases were carried in by the crab. Okay, let's see. I can't seem to find the eyes. I think that'd be an easy thing to find, huh? Who wants to play with the octopus and see if they... Oh, here's one. There's one eye, and there should be another eye right here. There's the other eye. So, here's the eyes. So, and the brain is located right in the middle. I'm not aware whether they do or they don't. Now, the fact that they can change different colors would make you think that they can see in color, but remember that red disappears after 30 feet. Most of the time, they're changing red. So it's more like a light-dark thing rather than a red-white thing. Does that make sense? Because if it's red and there's no red light coming down, then it's just dark. So a lot of things that are red because it's camouflage, because if you below 30 feet, it just means you're dark. So, there's the eyes.
They were hard to find just because the structure is just like...
Well, because I cut it backwards. I should have cut on the top part first. And I think that's the brain right there, you guys. That's about the right size.
That is very small.
Yeah.
It's the size of a bean.
Now, we're going to do the same thing with the squid.
Does it have any more digestive juices that it puts in rather than just the ink?
The question is does it put any more digestive juices in? So in the stomach and the cloaca, I mispronounced this, there are digestive juices. But remember, it's swallowing these things kind of like a milkshake, so it's still having to break down the parts of the milkshake.
So muscular, emotional, and...
Mechanical and chemical.
That's the brain.
Okay, so now... Here's what the inside of the squid looks like. Now...
Oh, that's some awesome...
Now, so, knowing what I just told you with the octopus, what do you think these two things are? Gills, thank you. Yeah, so these are the gills. They have a lot of surface area. Same kind of idea, going down from the head. So part of the digestive system has been severed. And I'm going to cut this open. Let's see. Let's push it this way so it's more in the light again. No, that's good. Let's stop right here. I'm trying to figure out, because this is separate, the dorsal and the ventral. There's one of the eyes. It's been popped already.
What was the eye?
This piece right here was the eye.
Oh, okay.
But it's been popped already.
Okay. Yeah, it's a beak. No semblance of a beak on it?
Yes, there is, and I just haven't got to it yet. Working my way down. So I'm cutting through the arms, and just like the octopus, it's got a muscular bolus around the beak. The beak's right here. So for an animal of similar size, it's got a little bit bigger of a beak. Once again, this is the esophagus going down, and then it comes into the animal right here. This is esophagus up here. The stomach is down here.
And the dark thing?
The dark thing is actually, here's the ink.
Oh, that thing?
Yeah. So let me see here. Now see, these were the eyes. Oh, beauty. Okay, so look right there. That's the lens. So, well, when you let that dry, it's like an onion, and it ends up coming apart in peels. I keep trying to preserve it, and it never preserves. You have to put it in some sort of solution. But that's the lens. The vitreous humor is the darker stuff. Some people confuse this with like the ink, but it's not. It's just the inside of the eye. So they have pretty large eyes.
So, do you want
Much larger than the octopus. So the squid, they're navigating and they're in the water zone, and they're using their eyes for their prey as much as the octopus uses its arms, because the octopus doesn't have to see what it's getting. A lot of times the prey walks up to them because they're so well camouflaged. So I'm going to split the bolus of the beak. Well, let me just cut it out. And we'll look and then compare. What happened to? Oh, there we go. That's the octopus beak. Let's compare that to the squid beak. This is all the muscle, the bolus. Yeah.
I guess they don't actually masticate.
They don't. So just like the octopus beak, it comes in two pieces, comes together like that. Notice it's a little more pointy, but not as large or dark as the giant Pacific. So you've got the squid beak here, and you have the octopus beak here. Yeah, more pointy. Yeah, the squid are eating small fish for the most part. Too slimy to stay together. Oh well. Or is that just me? There we go. All right, so getting back to the squid, notice the size of the gills. Which one had bigger gills, the octopus or the squid? The squid. The squid is more aerobic. It has to have a lot more oxygen. It's swimming a lot more. Squid also, especially the Humboldt squid, dive pretty deeply. In fact, one of their hunting strategies is to dive down to where there's very little oxygen, because there the fish are sluggish, and they're able to zoom in, grab these lanternfish, and then zoom back out again. So they use the low oxygen level kind of like a fence to keep their prey in one spot. It makes it easier to catch. So this animal, I see, the first thing that you'd think is that this might be the gonads, but it's not. This is actually part of the digestive system. This animal was not mature when it died. I think I mentioned to you that was only half the size of a full-grown squid. So when they don't have reproduction going on, you don't see the digestive system. It's just basically a line that runs along that doesn't develop until they're ready to spawn. So let's talk about that for just a second. These guys, when they spawn, they do mass spawnings. They have external fertilization. The males put the sperm out in the water, the females put the eggs out in the water, and then they fertilize. These guys, I didn't answer the question, but I didn't have this question, but if you looked at this one, there was no hectocotylus. So this one had suckers on all of its legs, which meant it was a female. Where at a male, it would use its third arm to reach back into its mantle to grab the sperm rope, and then use that sperm rope in that arm to fertilize the female. So it's solitary fertilization. Where these guys broadcast sperm, you don't know who's the mom, who's the dad. Here you'll always know, because you see the male breeding with the female. So once that happens, generally speaking, the male goes into senescence and dies. And when I say goes into senescence, it doesn't necessarily die right away. The female stays alive for up to 6 months, taking care of the eggs. The male often has really odd behavior. Instead of hiding, instead of going out and feeding, it stops feeding and it starts wandering around. So you get some really good videos of really big octopus walking around in Alaska, probably because they're in senescence. And when a halibut comes up or a shark, they're gone. So you don't ever see them. They just basically disappear. But they get back in the food chain very quickly.
Does the squid?
Suicide by predator, bad behavior, you know.
Does the squid die also?
Oh, that's a great question too. So do the squid die? The squid, so for example, most squid have a 2-year life cycle, where here we're talking about a 3 to 5 year life cycle. So think about the size of this squid, how rapidly it has to grow. The inference, and no one knows this for sure, the inference is these squid all die after they breed. And it's based on anecdotal evidence, specifically of spawning that we've seen. There are mountains underneath the ocean, and the squid will come up to an area where you can actually dive and see them, because normally they're down deeper, and sharks will come down and they'll eat them. So we can look in sharks' stomachs and see the size of the squid, seeing if they're eating different size squid or all the same size. But basically, through the year, the size of the squid's beak changes. And so after they come up to spawn, the sharks only have small beaks in their stomachs. So the inference is they died. We don't know for sure. What we do know for sure is they grow very, very rapidly, and they eat a lot. And they eat very fast. Squid. Any other questions? Oh, the question is do they all turn colors like the Humboldt? And that's one of the characteristics of almost all the cephalopods. They all seem to have chromatopores, and they might use it for different things. For example, some of them may use it for communication, some of them may use it for camouflage, but they all have that ability.
It's like this black color.
Yeah, so I would love to repeat that for you. So if you want to find a giant squid, what they used to do was to put out bait and see if they can attract the squid to the bait. In Monterey, they discovered this, that jellyfish, when they're attacked by fish, use their bioluminescence to create a particular pattern. The ones that created the pattern that the squid recognized, the squid would swim over and eat the fish that was eating them. That meant that that was passed on to their kids, right? So functionally, the squid are using light in order to find their prey. So the researchers, and this is something that's been on TV, it's a really good show if you get a chance to see it, it's a woman researcher who modeled the flashing of the bioluminescence in these LEDs that she put down on the bottom of the ocean, and she attracted the giant squid to come in. So the squid uses their eyes down in that really deep water to be able to see the bioluminescence. They're attracted to the bioluminescence because of fish preying on other things, and that drives them to those fish. Very cool. And that was just recently discovered, like within the last 8 years or so, 7 or 8 years. Any other questions? All right, well, I'm going to dump this. I'm going to save the beaks. We are having a coloring contest for the kids, and whoever wins the coloring contest gets the beaks. So, well, let's see. These are gills there. What's this right here? I don't know. Let's look at that.
There's one on this side too.
Yeah, the ink sac, there's only one ink sac, so it wouldn't be that.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I'm going to guess liver.
Yeah.
Because they have 2 livers.
Oh, okay.
And they have 1 ink sac. So.
Oh, okay. So where's the ink sac?
The ink sac is actually down by the siphon.
Okay.
And it's a long like that. Well, kind of like, imagine it there. It's the same place here.
Oh, they have an analog to the kidney?
No, it does pretty much the same thing. I mean, they have a pretty sophisticated, circulatory,
But they have
endocrine system. Yes.
So in your presentation, you said that.
Hi, Mr. Bell. Hi, Smith.
In your presentation, you said the octopus could drag 700 to 800 pounds with their tentacles or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
What about the squid? Do they protect themselves the same way, or?
Well, what we do know, no, I don't know about the strength. What I do know, though, is that in sperm whales, they have found scars of suckers that are the size of dinner plates.
Yeah.
If you extrapolate from the squid. So in other words, when a sperm whale is eating the squid, it puts a sucker on there and it incises this circular scar, and then the squid eats it. Or, I mean, literally, this is a battle of titans. If the squid's big enough, it could hold the sperm whale down and kill the sperm whale. the bottom line is there's some big squid out there. We know from inference, you know, because of those sucker size. Either that or there's small squid with really, really big suckers. But, you know, the likelihood is there's big squid out there.
Bigger than
these guys. Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What is the mechanics of them closing their beak back?
So they have a bolus, which is a muscle that's round, and you know how muscles can only contract and not expand, and not. So the muscle is layered it's layered, so that basically when it uses the beak like this, it's contracting its muscles. When it opens up, it's contracting another set of muscles, which opens it up.
Because I noticed there's no muscle attachment to that beak. It came off the beak.
It is attached to the beak itself and the body, but it has to have attachment, you know, because it works the same way. It works by fibers going like this.
Okay, so it doesn't just squeeze the whole thing like squeezing up.
No, it has to actually have more than one set in order to be able to relax. Otherwise, you can only go in one direction. So